welcome to the UpKeep Pledge Pros Podcast, a podcast dedicated to unmatched value and unwavering support for our customers and the community at large. Today, we have a very special guest and the first time that an UpKeep customer has been on the Pledge Pros Podcast. Today, we have Peter Funk from Rehrig, and he is the National Reliability Manager for all of their locations. Everything they're doing with maintenance, reliability, he is the guy. We're so glad to have our first customer on Pledge Pros Podcast, and we're going to talk all things UpKeep because Peter is an UpKeep customer and he has successfully implemented and scaled UpKeep at many locations. So Peter, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Very welcome. We're so glad to have you. So before we get into all this mess of UpKeep and CMMS and maintenance, why don't you tell us a little bit about you coming up in maintenance? I know you did some engineering and design. Tell us where you got it started and kind of where it led you to now and what's going on now with Rehrig in your current role.
Yeah, sure. I think like a lot of people in this this niche of the industry, I started out doing reliability work before I even knew reliability was a thing.
Very common.
Yeah. So first job out of college, I graduated with a mechanical engineering degree. Nice. And started out doing machine design and capital project management. And because of the way the pecking order goes, the young guys, the new guys get the smallest projects, right? And so a lot of these projects, I was paired with the maintenance department and working hand in hand with them to solve some of like the smaller little projects and problems that we had. And throughout the years, we hit some slow periods as far as like capital allocations. And naturally, one of the things I like about working in manufacturing is, as an engineer and as a reliability person, a lot of times you have to find your own work. You know, you have to go out and search for the things that are going to add value. And so in those years where we weren't spending a lot of capital money, I started looking at the way we were doing maintenance, how we were doing it, how we were accomplishing it, how could we get it done better and more effectively. And that sort of naturally spun into reliability. Eventually, I got myself into a position where reliability was in my title, and I started to do some more research on the topic, got involved with SMRP, and realized people have written books and books and books and books and books and books and books about this, and solved a lot of these problems that I thought I was the only person who ever had. And and was so glad that other people had made the way through the forest before me.
Yeah.
And so now with Rehrig Pacific, I've been with the company for a little over 6 years now. I worked as the local reliability manager for the Kansas plant, and then 2 years ago transitioned into the national reliability role, where I oversee the reliability program for all 7 of our injection molding facilities.
That's awesome, man. So how are you liking it now that
I love it.
2 years in?
I can't say enough about Rehrig Pacific. Their culture and their values are celebrated on a daily basis. It's a great company to work for. And they've really given me the opportunity to take this role where I think it should go and where our team thinks it should go. So it's been really exciting.
That's awesome. There's no doubt. I saw you. We met at SMRP last year. The fact that you were at SMRP representing Rehrig is a good step in the right direction. That means that they are also invested in ensuring that you are aligning yourself with industry and the professionals that are within industry. And that's super important.
Yeah. And also not only myself, but all 7 of our local reliability managers. Awesome. And several of our maintenance managers were there. Each year we try to find ways to bring new people to that conference because it's, like I said, just having that exposure and realizing that there's this network of professionals, experts, and individuals out there that can support us in these endeavors is game changing.
Yeah, no doubt. And you said something in your intro there that really sticks with me, and is you said that you were working with the maintenance team. And I can't stress enough how valuable that is. Whether it's a big project, a small, it doesn't matter. The fact that you were cutting your teeth with the people who were doing the work is immensely valuable, and it speaks to where you are today. We find that most people who have been in maintenance, doing maintenance, partner with maintenance, they're the people who end up climbing up, and because they're seeing the reality of what the department is experiencing, and they're able to communicate with leadership and build greater things for the department. I just love that. I'm a maintenance. I started out as a maintenance mechanic, technician, all those things. Worked my way up to become the director of maintenance and reliability for also 7 locations around the country. So we have very similar paths there. Peter, the first thing I wanted to ask you was, have you, prior to you leading all these teams, right? What kind of experience did you have with CMMS prior to UpKeep, if you will?
Yeah, I've seen and worked with everything from full enterprise solutions to literally Post-its on the wall.
That's a good solution, man.
It's effective in some regards,
Yep.
absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
in your face.
However, if someone walks by a little too closely at a little too quick of a pace, all your information's lost.
Yep, that's right.
So yeah, it's vulnerable to data corruption. However, access to it is pretty readily available. There's
Yep.
pros and cons to every solution, and there were more cons to that than pros. And same thing with like the full ERP solutions that I saw. I recall at that facility that every day at shift change, there would be a line of mechanics and electrical techs standing at the 2 computer consoles that we had in the maintenance shop, and they had their little notes getting ready to type into their work orders. And what kind of valuable data are we getting at that point in time? How many people can remember the first thing that they did when they arrived at work? And that could have been like the most valuable piece of data that we had, right?
Yeah, not to mention that they probably start lining up well before their shift ends because they want to be first.
Maybe I'm not going to rat anyone out, but
I would have.
Sure. Yeah. So I mean, there are pros and cons to everything, and I do have a pretty vast experience. Also worked with some like customized DOS solutions. Something that I've heard time and time again when looking at software solutions, whether it be manufacturing execution software, ERPs, CMMS. Every company that I've worked for always says, "Oh, we're too unique to use something that's off the shelf." And the more I get around, the more I realize that no one's really all that unique.
No, we all have the same problems.
Yeah. We all make stuff. We all fix machines.
Yep.
It's actually more common than you would think.
That's right. That's right. It's just crazy to think that last statement is everyone thinks that they have this unique thing or that they have these unique problems. I'm going to speak for maintenance, right? But maintenance kind of is symbiotic with the organization in itself. But when I talk to people, when I talk to other UpKeep customers and things, all the problems are the same. And sometimes when you tell them that all the problems are the same, they're like, "What do you mean they're the same?" It's like, no, you literally have the same problems as everybody else. They're all the same. It's just crazy. So lots of so different types of CMMS, customization, some ERPs. That's pretty cool, man. What ERPs specifically did you have experience with?
SAP, and there was some sort of like Oracle
NetSuite
thing that was like way outdated. A lot of these, that was one of the issues that we had, is every system that I worked on prior to UpKeep, other than like the Post-its and like Excel files, right? All of like the bought solutions, they were all out of date by the time that I got my hands on them, and running off of operating systems that were very antiquated for the time.
Right.
Because of those I'm assuming it was because of those customizations made it very hard to keep up with the times.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and also too, a lot of people, there's some confusion, and we buy an enterprise asset management program or a resource planning program, and they're like, "Oh, we have a maintenance arm. Your guys, you don't need anything else. Your guys can do maintenance through this thing, right? This attachment or this build on." And at the end of the day, it's a super, super, super watered down, clunky planning and scheduling, and some form of like asset registry. And it's not a CMMS. It's an arm of another type of resource planning or asset management, whatever. And we hear customers all the time talk about that. They're like, hey, I'm transitioning away from SAP, or hey, I have SAP, but we don't like the maintenance arm thing. Can you guys integrate? And of course we can, right? So you can let the business use that software and let the maintenance organization use the correct software.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to have something that's specialized and purpose built for our function.
That's right. That's right. So my next question is, you're an UpKeep customer. You've been an UpKeep customer for some time. Rehrig is a very common name amongst upkeepers. Upkeepers are the people who work at UpKeep and make all these glorious things happen. So when you were going through the selection process, we'll talk about when you started out at the Kansas plant, right? I think that's where you did
Yeah.
your pilot program.
Yeah.
What were the deciding factors? What were you looking for? What really stood out about UpKeep that allowed you to really drive it with the pilot program and then eventually scale so many other locations?
Yeah. So the first problem that we were trying, or challenge that we were trying to solve, is just bridging the communication gap between our production crews and our maintenance crews. So many times when I was out walking the floor, I would hear from an operator like, "Oh, we told the maintenance guys about this the other day," or like, I've been saying this for a month now, right?"
Yeah.
And I'm absolutely 1,000% sure that they were saying that for a month now, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
However, if you're a maintenance tech and you're walking from the shop to your next task, and someone stops you with a, "Hey, would you mind?" You hear it, you're like, "Absolutely, we should totally do that." And then you go to your task and completely forget about it, right? I would do it too. It's
Yes.
human nature,
Yes.
right?
Right.
We needed a way to like log, catalog, and then be able to organize that feedback that we were getting from the maintenance crews or from the production crews.
Right.
The place that I worked before Rehrig was fairly advanced in their condition monitoring technology. Rehrig was not at that point in time. But what I've stood by is that, each person that we have out on the floor is a walking, breathing, eating sensor, right? We're taking in information. I can't tell you how many times that we've had a situation where, even a very new person on the floor walks by a machine and says, "Hey, that doesn't sound right." Puts in an upkeep request, maintenance tech comes over and says, "Oh yeah, the vibration isolator was wearing out and we had to replace that," or we found some misalignment, right? Something like that happens and probably saved maybe a $20,000 asset.
Dude.
um
No doubt.
so I wanted something to enable those people to get their feedback into something where we could then absorb it at the right time, not as we were walking by, when we were sitting at our computer, look at it and then assign those tasks in a timely manner
Sure.
to get handled, and then track to make sure that they were getting done. So that was the first thing. And then in order for that to happen, it had to have a mobile solution.
That was the next thing I was going to say. If that was going to happen, they got to hold it in their hand.
Exactly. It has to be able to happen at the point of use. It has to be able to happen at the machine. I didn't want to see our techs lining up at a computer at the end of the day. I wanted to see everything happening at the floor where we're doing the work.
That's right.
And then the third thing is it needed to be very easy to get up and running. At the point in time, the company as a whole wasn't really sure we needed a CMMS.
Crazy. Manufacturing.
And it was a type of, well, okay, we understand, we hear you, but we would like you to show us.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
I knew I didn't have the backing to be able to invest in, a huge rollout that was going to take an implementation team to be on site.
And millions of dollars.
It needed to be something that myself and my team could do very easily and very quickly. And quite frankly, we got UpKeep up and rolling at the Kansas plant within days.
It's that easy.
And it's a thing where it's scalable, right? So we started out with our biggest assets, and we like clumped them together as work centers. And then slowly, as we evolved and we grew in our usage of UpKeep, we started to break that down into layers and started to use more of the hierarchy. So that worked out quite nicely. So yeah, the three things was, communication between our production team and our maintenance team, mobile app, and then ease of getting up and running.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's funny is I implemented UpKeep at 7 locations as well, and we were managing like 3,500 acre sites, waterfront sites, coal and pet coke facilities, and we had technicians all over the place, right? And they needed to be able to do the work right where they were. They needed to be able to take pictures, document, and do the work right where they were, track their time, all those things. And then we needed to have, and arguably, I agree with you most of all, is it needed to be super easy and easy to scale. I started at one place just like you did. I implemented it there. We got it going like solid, super solid. We connected it with our ERP, all those things. And then we just kept rolling out. And once the work was done at one facility, it was almost a mirror, right, at the rest of them.
Yeah.
So that's awesome to hear, man.
Yeah. Yeah. The way I look at it is I have the availability and the patience to find a way to get the information that I need out of a CMMS. So I didn't really prioritize that at all. Now there's some great opportunities in UpKeep with the analytics to do that. But my focus was purely on what's the user experience look like for the techs, because that's the make or break. If I put something in their hands and it's not user friendly and they don't use it, the system fails.
It means nothing. It means nothing. Yeah. I've had those conversations a lot, Peter, with a lot of people, industry experts. I mean, everything is about the person has to want to use it, right? And they have to see the value in it. And more importantly than everything is they have to be connected to it. You bring them into the process when you're doing these things and showing them the true value that it creates for them. And like you said, we're wandering around, we're going to meetings, we're setting strategy. We can take the time to fool around and figure something out on the desktop, right? Which is they can't. You're absolutely right. They need to get it. Okay, this makes sense. Here are the assets. Here's the schedule, blah, 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 blah. And let me go to work.
Are you helping me or are you hindering my progress?
That's right. That's right. And we know tradesmen, they don't want to be bothered. They want to do their job, fill out their work order, go home.
Yeah. One of the values that we quickly recognized with UpKeep that we really didn't see as we were picking a CMMS was the troubleshooting guidance that it would provide. So when one of our techs goes in and they solve a problem and they fill out a work order and they put their comments in the section and they put some pictures in there and everything, it's real nice. What that does is that's setting the stage for someone in the future to be able to use the search engine that has that same problem in the middle of the night, and maybe they're less experienced, to find that work order, pull it up, and then be able to work through what that tech did previously and execute the work so much more efficiently. So it allowed us to upskill our newer incoming techs so much more quickly and turn them loose on a shift by themselves, knowing that they had UpKeep in their back pocket.
Right.
And then second of all, the feedback from those techs to the senior techs, like, hey, I saw your work order and it got me out of a big jam. That just encouraged people to use the app even more.
Yeah, I mean, it builds a strong foundation for adoption, right? It connects them to why it's essentially being brought out, right?
As a tech, you're creating a digital legacy through your work orders.
That's right. That's right. And when I had UpKeep, we actually had failure codes as well. So they could type in a failure code associated with an asset, and then they would be able to search all those the same. So yeah, it's good stuff. So Peter, my next question is, what were some of the challenges about your business that UpKeep helped eliminate? I know we talked a little bit about why the implementation happened, but was there anything deeper or a bigger associate? You mentioned a little bit about the I kind of cling to these things when you say the business didn't really understand why you needed a CMMS. So what bigger overarching things were present, and how has UpKeep helped solve those things? Maybe I'm assuming the business is seeing the value now since you were able to build such a big program.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, the communication thing was huge, right? Getting that and allowing our production team to have their voice heard in the system and see how their observations progress through from request to work order to completed work. That was great in driving engagement. um, the asset lifecycle data has been huge, and we're still building this out, right?
Sure.
But just being able to understand, where our pain points are, what machines that people know, right? People who work on them know that, oh, this machine's a little bit of a headache over here, right, compared to this one over here. But being able to have that in some sort of analytical data package that we can present fully and say, this is why we want to invest in this machine, because it's not performing like this one over here in terms of like the reliability costs, right?
Sure.
We have good access to performance and things like that, but a lot of that can be masked by the heroics of our reliability groups. The daily efficiencies don't show the 16 hours of tech work that we had to put in to get that machine back up and running when it had the same failure that it had 2 weeks ago, right?
Right.
And then also having that historical record of what those failures were, so we can look for those trends, we can see those commonalities, and we can work to address them as well. So data by far is the hugest thing. I one of the things I like to say is I hate to gamble. I absolutely despise it. And what is gambling? Gambling's making a decision without the necessary information. So
Sure.
some pieces of the puzzle are missing, and you got to make a guess, right? And I don't like that. I like to have all the information. So the more information we can have, the less gambles we're taking with our company's assets.
Sure. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I've made a lot of risky decisions in my day as well, with limited data or no data, right? If I didn't have what I needed, you better believe I was out there walking around talking to people, being like, "Hey, does this sound right to you? Does this sound like the reality of what's happening in this business or this plant?" And it's funny you say that the technicians know, the electricians know, the production operators, they know what machines are a pain. They know the things that happen on a day-to-day basis. Um, and being able to bridge that gap and ensuring that there's alignment there is immensely valuable. I know when I had UpKeep and even other CMMSs, one of the very first tasks of any PM was to connect with the operator prior to starting your PM to ensure that you were going to address anything that they may be observing throughout the day or the week. And man, did that build strong camaraderie between operations and maintenance. So you're literally building relationships because I don't want to say forcing, but the first task is, hey, go talk to the operator, ask them about the machine. It's a little more nuanced than that.
Sure.
But then you start to find out, through the technician, through supervisor stuff, like, oh yeah, the operator, he came into the planner's office today and he let me know that something was found on the PM that Billy just did or whatever, right? So creating that avenue of communication with interdepartmental communication is super valuable. And another thing you mentioned about the communication for the bigger businesses, when you have strong planning and scheduling within UpKeep or with the processes that you can do within UpKeep with the auto generation, all those things, you start to build strong symbiosis with operations. And that builds the trust amongst your department and a interdepartmental trust. So it starts to beat down all the, well, we put the ticket in and the guys ain't, but it's still broken, blah, 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 blah. Oh, he got here when we were running production. You can't do a PM during production, right? So you start to beat all those things back. And what you're saying is 100% correct. I mean, those are the main things. It's just a crazy thing. And like I said, I was an UpKeep customer as well. And I saw it just like you did, which is kind of cool that we're talking about this because we've been in the same path, right?
Yeah. And over the years, like we've really grown and focused on different areas of UpKeep as we've grown on our reliability journey. And each one of our 7 plants is in a little bit different of a position.
Sure.
And uses it fairly the same, but they have different strengths and weaknesses. And so we work on that together to try to get the most out of it. I'm just thinking like, standardizing our PMs across the country. That was a big one because if we're doing, the data is impossible to compare. If we're doing different routine work on a machine in Atlanta than we are on a machine in Los Angeles, right?
Yep.
Now, if we're doing the same routine PMs, now all of a sudden we can compare that, those mean time between failures and other data points like that for the assets and components within that work center.
Yeah.
So that was a huge one. Bringing our inventory online and nationalizing our inventory. So
Huge.
that way we can see if we need a part in Florida, do we have it in Wisconsin?
Amazing.
That was a big one. Gosh, just we keep finding new avenues and new ways of utilizing the software. We've been working with Mark at UpKeep to find new ways to use Data Hub and bringing that into the forefront of the company as well. So just lots of opportunities, and I honestly don't think that we're even close to fully utilizing the software yet, and we've been going at it for 5 years.
Yeah, I mean that's great, and Upkeep is really evolved into a multi-platform solutions provider, right? Yeah, we have a core CMMS that we focus a lot of our energy into, but really it's all about having an entire footprint for a customer to utilize and create value from, which includes Upkeep CMMS, Data Hub, and then Edge, that all can feed into Data Hub. So Data Hub being like this collective brain that can pull in all this information, not only from Upkeep CMMS and Edge sensors and things, but also your ERP, your financial systems. All these things can be connected, and you can be looking at the data that is essentially standardized, right? It's the same. So if you're looking at it, Peter, in Kansas, and I'm the maintenance manager in Atlanta, and I'm looking at it, we're looking at the same thing. It's not me going, how do I interpret this? Oh, he's not going to know what I'm talking about. No, it's the same thing, right?
Yeah, that's a big issue when it comes to data analysis, is making sure that we're all using the same data set and getting to the same answers. Because as soon as people start pulling from different areas and you start asking the same question and getting different answers, it challenges the integrity.
Right. And then
And
people,
now all of a sudden we're gambling again, right?
well, yeah. And you're also people outside of your maintenance organization that are going, do they got it? Do they one guy said this, another guy said this, where are they getting this information from? I like to say it's like all of that could be rolled into the business is speaking the same language.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it.
So Peter, I got one more question for you before we wrap up. And that is, what advice would you give to somebody who is in the process of figuring out whether they want a CMMS, or in the process of discovery sessions to find a CMMS, and then ultimately maybe somebody who has a particular CMMS or ERP or EAM and wants to transition to another one?
It's a good question. I would say, much like we did, just hop in and try it out. Just maybe pay for 2 or 3 users. I think that's what we did to get started. Is we just paid for our myself, my maintenance manager, a couple, our mold manager, a couple other
under $100.
Yeah, a couple other key folks just to get in the door. And we started passing work orders around between us. Like I said, we set up a really simple hierarchy. And, after we planned to do that for like 3 months, but we ended up going forward with rolling it out sooner because like the buzz just got around.
Right.
The maintenance tech started talking about, oh, was that on UpKeep? Did you find that on UpKeep? When am I going to get UpKeep? Right.
Yeah, that's right.
And then it happened. Right. And we rolled it out, and we rolled it out sooner than we wanted to. We weren't fully set up in our hierarchy, but we adapted and we grew. And don't be afraid to get in there and try some things, because you can always change. You can always change things. We actually, as it was, we started this pilot in Kansas, and at the time there wasn't a very strong national reliability presence within the company. So I think it was Dallas they called on. They're like, hey, heard you guys are using the CMMS. Could we try it out? And we're like, not up to us. Sure, buddy, here it is. Have at it, And then they signed on, and then the LA plant signed on, right? And then my predecessor, John Feeney, he came into the national reliability role and saw that, this segmentation was happening. And so we actually rolled back on several of those UpKeep implementations and restarted it to a national standard based on what we had learned.
Perfect.
But
That's
quite
what you got
frankly,
to do.
we wouldn't have learned that stuff if we weren't doing it, right? So set up a small pilot, get started. Don't be afraid to just completely scrap it and start over.
Yep.
Once you've learned some things and figured out if this is a solution that works for you.
Yeah, no question. That's great advice. And I like to tell people as well, it's like if you have a CMMS that you're deciding on whether you want to keep it or not, or move to another one, don't think that you're starting from zero when you do convert, because you're not, right? You've learned a tremendous amount about your work processes and how you do business from a maintenance standpoint. And it's also an opportunity to scrub your data, to actually go through and look at, like, do I actually like this? Do I need this? Should it be this way? Or in your case, hey, we're about to blow up scale. We can't be thinking one location nomenclature and standardization. We need to be thinking, how does this scale to all of these locations? So there's an immense opportunity in switching a CMMS.
Yeah.
So don't be discouraged. Most people don't be discouraged there.
And then I guess my only other thing to say with that, well, I probably have more, but this will be the the other thing that I share. Would be, think about what it looks like to the end user, and your end user should be your tech, who is crawling in and out of the machine while trying to parse through a work order, who is trying to sneak in a snack and check what his next task is, right? What's that look like to him? We made clear and conscious decisions to keep like our drop down menus short and
Sure.
concise, so that way like a tech wasn't scrolling through 50 categories. Would it make things easier on the back end when we're analyzing data to have 15 different categories of work? Absolutely.
Right.
Would it make things absolutely miserable for our tech trying to pick the right one from his phone? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we made sure to keep them at like 5 or less. Like we said, like when you click on your phone, we don't want to have to scroll down. You just have a list to pick from, right?
Sure.
So think about what your decisions are going to look like to the end user as you're doing your setup.
No doubt. And one advice on top of what you said, which is great, is if you're going to take that efficient approach from the jump, particularly with assets, QR code your assets. Technician walks right up, they scan the QR code, it opens the asset. Now they can open a work order on that asset. They don't have to scroll for assets. They don't have to look for assets. They don't have to do all these things, right? It's already there. And then, like you said, Peter, you keep those drop downs for preventive, corrective, failure, whatever, all of that very concise. What I like to call it, all those things would be like your work order type, your work order class, and all those things. So that's great. Awesome advice.
Yeah,
Peter, are you're going to be at SMRP this year?
I will.
Awesome. Do you guys go to any other conferences throughout the year?
That's really the one we make annually. There's a plastics show coming up in May that we usually have a presence at as well.
Cool.
But SMRP is the big one for our reliability organization.
Nice. And I'm just going to do a plug. One, my first plug is for maintenance technicians and people doing the work every single day, 24 hours a day. That's why my lights are on. That's why my water comes on. Same with you. Hardcore plug for people doing the maintenance, the doers. I have immense respect. I've been a doer. And UpKeep is 100% invested in ensuring that the doer is equipped to do his job correctly and efficiency and align him or her with the business. My second plug, Peter, is about UpKeep's support. We have 24/7 support. We just created the ambassador program, which I'm sure you've heard about, which is literally us connecting with true vetted industry professionals that are at the disposal of our customers. And there's a lot more to come about that. So one more thing I want to add for both of us, Peter, about what you should look for in a CMMS is support.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're 100% dead on there. And UpKeep has just been tremendous in our access and transparency. I could tell you 5 years ago that UpKeep did not look like what it is. It did
No,
not have
it's
half the
true.
features it did.
It's true.
And there's there's several things that I can point to on the app that came from suggestions from people within our organization.
I bet.
And yeah, just the transparency of like, absolutely, we're going to put that on our list and we're going to get to that, or like, that's not on our target right now. You should probably find a workaround. That's great, because someone just telling you like, yeah, we're going to work on this, that doesn't always help you if they're not actually going to work on it.
I'm moving right now.
Yeah. Tell me if this is not going to happen and I'll find a way. Right.
That's right.
But yeah, and the user support has been tremendous. We've had nothing but positive engagements with everyone at UpKeep, from Ryan to everyone else. So it's been a great relationship.
Yeah, man, those are awesome points. And that's a testament to, one, taking the customer's ideas and thoughts into consideration for the product, right? You're using it. We want to align our values with yours. And two, showing that we saw where we were deficient in things and we actively tried to change them and have changed many of those things. And I agree with you. When I got UpKeep, I got rid of e-maintenance and I went to UpKeep mostly for the mobile function. And I remember talking to Garris, who's now like the sales VP guy, and he was just a customer support person, and being like, hey, can I do this? They're like, no. I was like, can I do this? They're like, no. Like, all right, well, I'll have to figure it out, right? Fortunately, all those features are now, they have them now.
Yeah. I would like to point out that every customer rep that Rehrig's had has gotten promotion. So if you're working at UpKeep and you're looking for someone to talk to,
jump on Rehrig. Yeah, no, hey, man, it's awesome, man. I'm so glad that we were able to connect. I'm so glad we've actually met in person. A lot of people I talk to, I've never met in person. And I look forward to seeing you in SMRP this year. And I know that our team is very, very invested in Rehrig and all of our customers. And I just want to thank you again, and on behalf of UpKeep, thank you also for being a customer, a longtime customer, an active user and engager of our platform and our company. So we really appreciate it, Peter. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and thank you to UpKeep for enabling our folks to do the work that they want to do and provide value for this company. It was a pleasure to talk to you today.
No doubt. Thank you. And on behalf of UpKeep, this is the Pledge Pros Podcast, where we have unmatched value and unwavering support for our customers and the community at large. This has been Peter and Brian talking CMMS and UpKeep. Take it easy, Peter.
See ya.